I'm looking forward to speaking about this timely topic of artificial intelligence and data security. My background is both in the private sector and in government. I came out of Department of Homeland Security, Science and Technology for part of my career, and I've been working with large companies such as General Dynamics and Xerox. And now I'm a teacher at Georgetown University, where I teach disruptive technologies in the Cybersecurity Risk Management program. I also write for Forbes and a dozen other publications. And with that, I'll let our other panelists introduce themselves.
Got one. Hi, my name is Manuel BOHE. I am an entrepreneur since 20 years. I've founded companies, I've sold companies, but today I'm here as a representative of the German Federal Association for the Protection of Critical Infrastructure. I'm a security researcher there, and critical infrastructure, that's water supply, it's energy, it's grid providers, and there's a lot to do at the moment in the whole European Union. And we look into artificial intelligence, of course, as well. But as you can imagine, critical infrastructure is kind of slow in applying things. And we had discussed this before, just back there. We think that the attackers might be quite fast in using artificial intelligence for attacks, while our members in critical infrastructure, they're kind of slow in adapting. So I'm curious what we're discussing right now.
Christophe.
Bonjour, je suis Christophe RODRIGUES, donc je suis le directeur de l'innovation d'Exaion, qui est une filiale, la filiale Deep Tech du groupe EDF. Nous sommes spécialisés sur la mise en place de solutions de décarbonation de l'industrie numérique. Par exemple, le déploiement de data centers décentralisés, donc l'enjeu de la cybersécurité est encore plus important. Nos clients sont prioritairement des corporatifs ou des institutionnels. Donc c'est un véritable enjeu et une préoccupation de chaque jour.
La traduction fonctionne bien? Bon, voilà. Alors, merci au traducteur au passage. Première question, puisque nous nous lançons dans la prospective, j'aimerais savoir, quand on pense à l'avenir, et on peut déjà voir un peu l'avenir aujourd'hui, on pense beaucoup à l'intelligence artificielle. On parle de l'apprentissage machine, l'apprentissage automatique. Comment, dans un contexte de cybersécurité, vous voyez ces choses-là évoluer? Et à quelque part, est-ce que vous pensez que, selon vous, il va avoir un énorme impact par rapport à la sécurité des données dans l'avenir pour les entreprises? On va commencer en français.
Merci. Je pense que l'intelligence artificielle a plusieurs avantages. Ça permet de faire de la recherche proactive, d'analyser de manière automatique les réseaux, mais ça peut être aussi un inconvénient, parce que ce qui est bénéfique peut aussi se retourner contre nous. Donc ça peut aussi être une des IA qui peuvent être aussi négatives pour un réseau. Donc je dirais que c'est très utile. C'est très utile dans l'analyse, dans la proaction et dans la surveillance. Je dirais que ça peut vraiment aider des entreprises à améliorer leurs outils de productivité en temps réel. Maintenant, on n'est qu'au début. Je pense qu'il y a pas mal de choses qui évoluent dans ce domaine-là. L'avenir nous dira si effectivement c'est un outil qui peut s'avérer très utile sans l'aide de l'humain, ou si finalement on va devoir quand même mettre des opérateurs et des spécialistes avec.
Manuel.
Yeah.
You have less than half an hour.
Say that again?
We have less than half an hour.
Less than half an hour, yeah, sure. That won't go too far. But actually, I think from the attacker's perspective, of being an attacker, it got so much easier to write malicious code and to run really strong attacks, or kind of widespread attacks. It got artificial intelligence, particularly since the upcoming of ChatGPT and all the large language models, kind of made such a strong toolkit for attackers. When you look at my reality and critical infrastructure, you have kind of old machines like water pumps in water supply companies, these machines, the companies make investments that should pay off in maybe 20 or 30 years. So it takes just such a long time. They are not really prepared to answer to a faster pace. They kind of thought. Need to take that away. They kind of found it quite fast anyway, even before the rise of large language models and attackers using this kind of things, and so I think they will kind of fall behind. They're really back to they're really stuck in the basics, kind of network segmentation and so on, asking themselves how to get the basics right, and they kind of overrun with the threats coming from these new toolkits.
Sure.
Yeah, I think with artificial intelligence, we're already here in some degrees. It's mostly machine learning. From a cybersecurity perspective, it's being used already to help automate problems that are necessitated with the lack of a workforce and expertise. We're 3.4 million people short on the global scale in cybersecurity. So a lot of the routines that you would do, including reports, false positives, doing those kind of things, it makes it much easier. It also could be used to help detect malicious URLs and attachments that might be problematic. The problem, though, is just like with the rest of cybersecurity, it's an asymmetrical threat. The attackers have the advantage, and they're already doing it. They're already using ChatGPT and Bard and other tools to generate large-scale phishing attacks. They're looking at polymorphic malware to insert in some of these attacks, which could have significant consequences and be very hard to detect. And they're also being used by state sponsors in their organized crime units. Still, the primary focus of most of these groups is for profit, and they've been able to do a lot with it with ransomware. And they can find their targets, an expanding attack surface much easier, send out millions of threats, and they only need a couple to make it work. So I think we're going to have a rough road ahead until the rest of us play catch up. And a lot of it can be done, but we need investment. You need awareness, particularly at the C-suite level, because still most companies and small businesses have no clue. They're not even doing basic cyber hygiene, let alone preparing to prevent AI attacks. So, as Manuel said, particularly with critical infrastructure, which has been a significant target with the Ukraine war, that there's a lot more OT/IT interactive attacks, and I think the Colonial Pipeline attack that happened a couple of years back in the United States is a good example, where we don't even know between the commingling of the IT and OT networks where the issue is, so you have to assume everything is contaminated and you cut it down, which in the case of that attack closed down the oil pipeline for the whole east coast of the United States. So I think don't want to be scaring people, but I think it is worthwhile looking at the implications, because it's a force multiplier for attackers and exponentially helps their ability to exploit and breach. So I think we really need to have a coming together to really invest and work together collectively, all the allies across the world, to look at protocols and tools that we can use to help mitigate these attacks.
Manuel, I'm seeing you smiling when Chuck is saying that. What do you have in your mind?
Well, honestly, I'm not too positive in my outlook regarding if we can catch up. Particularly, I know they're very much. There are lots of companies out there. They're kind of innovative, and they're picking up new trends, and they're trying to protect what they have, their processes, their diamonds, and so on. But it's not only critical infrastructure, honestly. We have in Germany, we do have lots of mid-sized companies, and as soon as they are in production, and they have the same issues. They kind of invest long term, and they try to find out an easy way to do things. So security has always been an issue. And nowadays, we do have, from an attacker's perspective, these really sophisticated spear phishing mails. We're not talking about some ransom, let's say easy phishing mails, but they're getting better and better. And I don't think security awareness campaigns will come up, will be at that level. That it's like, you know, when you have a thousand attacks, a certain number of mails. We're talking about phishing mails or spear phishing mails. They just will get through. They will get through. And when it comes to AI, you know, we have this voice cloning and so on and so forth. So it's getting more and more sophisticated. And from my perspective, the defense part cannot only be about avoiding the attack itself, but it should also be about the business continuity management to actually react in a certain way to mitigate the how can I say that, the damage.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think really it's a mindset, and it's a, you know, for too long, cybersecurity has been looked at as
Chuck, can I ask you to point the microphone to your mouth?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. For too long, it's been looked at as a cost item by most business, and they haven't looked at cybersecurity as really something that you need to be viable and thrive and survive. And for a lot of businesses, particularly mid-sized and small businesses, they get hit with an attack and they go out of business. So I think there has to be a change at the C-suite, and particularly with this new threat of artificial intelligence, they have to look at the alternatives that are out there and have a new risk management strategies that adapt to that. And until they do that, things aren't going to change. You're right. Cybersecurity awareness is a nice phrase, but for most companies, they'll just check it off as a checklist and not really do it.
But going back to both of what you were saying, Emmanuel and Chuck, you were talking about infrastructure and old infrastructure, where they're based on old technology, old system. Does it mean that those, and I have a problem with that word, ces vieilles infrastructures, let's say that in French, vont être victimes de cyberattack? By default, they will be a victim of it because they won't be able to adapt it, because it costs too much and they won't have the time to adapt?
Yeah, if they don't invest in it and have a plan, they're not going to adapt. And unfortunately, for the most part, most of these companies are not doing that. And some of the large ones are, because they have to, and they've also been targeted. But I think in the future, you know, we have to look at is everyone's a target. The crime used to be physical, where, you know, limitations, you had to be there. But you can do this remotely anywhere in the world, and you can be protected, and it's very difficult for law enforcement to actually do anything. So the only thing you can really do is defend yourself. And until you do that and realize that's got to be an integral part of your strategy and your risk management posture, you're going to put yourself at risk. And every year it's going to get riskier, because artificial intelligence is in its early stage. It's really mostly machine learning. And now there's generative AI applications making it so anyone could be a hacker. So if anyone's a hacker, you're going to get hacked.
Would you say the same thing, Manuel?
Yeah, absolutely. Now I lost it. Let me rethink that. No, when you on the defender side, the motivation is key. So in the European Union, we have several laws coming up. Within the next two years. They will come into law. So they will be real. Companies need to adapt, and that's when they move. That's when they move. So we do have in the EU the law that it's the NIS2 guideline, and NIS2 needs to be adapted to the local law, France, Germany, and so on. And you have in NIS there is how do you say that? You need to have intrusion detection systems. So, and if you're talking about intrusion detection systems, we have depends how you build it, how you design it. You have your machine learning in that. So that's happening right now. But what I see is that companies, mid-sized companies, even small ones with maybe 500 employees, they are forced to implement intrusion detection systems, and that's what they do. So everything else is untouched. but the intrusion detection system is there. And of course, they have one ISO 27000 certificate on their wall. They have the intrusion detection system. Of course, not prevention. It's never going to be kind of, or at least in the next years, that nobody will switch on to intrusion prevention. But we'll have it kind of a reporting system and someone looks at it or not. So I'm not convinced yet that this will make things much better from a defender's perspective.
Christophe, est-ce que vous avez quelque chose à rajouter?
Non, mais je pense que le point de vue est intéressant. Après, comme disait Manuel, je pense que la problématique, elle est plutôt au niveau des entreprises qui, selon la taille et selon les talents qu'ils ont en interne, sont capables de mettre en place les bonnes stratégies. Il y a souvent la solution de faciliter, de s'appuyer là-dessus. Maintenant, ce n'est pas la seule solution et effectivement, ça va passer aussi. Il y a des gros investissements qui sont faits en France, on parlait de la France, là, il y a des gros investissements qui sont faits sur la formation, la sensibilisation et beaucoup d'entreprises ont besoin d'être sensibilisées. Dans le monde industriel, il faut savoir qu'il y a quand même des vieux ordinateurs, des vieilles infrastructures qui tournent encore sous Windows NT, c'est une réalité, ou Windows 98 ou autre. Ces machines-là ne sont pas mises à jour, elles sont sur un réseau local. Alors c'est des réseaux séparés, mais parfois l'erreur est souvent humaine. On peut se retrouver avec ces machines-là qui deviennent finalement l'énorme faille dans le système et qui peuvent faire tomber toute l'entreprise. Donc voilà. Mais c'est difficile d'expliquer à un industriel de devoir investir dans un outil moderne, parce que certaines machines fonctionnent encore avec des ports série ou des ports parallèles. C'est triste, mais c'est une réalité. Et les industriels, il y a une sensibilisation qui doit être faite et c'est compliqué. C'est compliqué. Il y a un rapport investissement et connaissance qui n'est pas si simple que ça à mettre sur la table.
De ce que j'entends de vous trois, il va vraiment falloir attendre une catastrophe dans le domaine pour que les industriels comprennent l'importance de mettre à jour tout leur équipement.
Oui, c'est une réalité, mais d'un autre côté, il n'y a pas que ça. Je pense que c'est un problème d'argent aussi. On est face à un milieu industriel qui souffre aussi. Le Covid a été un peu compliqué pour beaucoup d'industriels. Ensuite, quand vous êtes habitué à utiliser une machine ou utiliser tout un cycle industriel et que vous avez ces habitudes, vous avez mis énormément d'argent, vous avez envie de le rentabiliser. Et puis après, c'est toujours la même chose. Vous n'avez pas forcément les compétences en interne. Bien souvent, dans certaines industries, vous avez des gens en interne qui ne comprennent pas ces enjeux-là. Et la plupart si on prend le cas de l'Europe, la plupart des meilleurs élèves qui sortent des universités ou des grandes écoles en cybersécurité sont directement attrapés par les boîtes américaines à vil prix. Et puis, c'est vrai que c'est difficile. Donc c'est compliqué. La France a commencé à mettre en place, avec l'ANSSI, a commencé à mettre en place des stratégies. Je sais qu'au niveau de l'Allemagne, c'est aussi bien avancé. Chaque pays essaie de faire monter en compétences d'entreprise, mais c'est difficile. C'est difficile.
D'ailleurs, vous parlez de la France et on reconnaît toujours à la France une des meilleures générations d'ingénieurs, d'ingénierie, de programmeurs, de développeurs. Quand on regarde les grandes initiatives aux États-Unis, notamment, il y a toujours un Français qui fait partie de l'équipe de développement.
C'est un peu le problème, oui.
Ouais. Mais pendant ce temps-là, il n'est pas en Europe.
C'est ça.
Ouais. Je vous amène sur une autre question. Et celle-là, elle fait suite à ce dont on parlait. Comment les cyberattaques évoluent-elles, évidemment, dans le sens du futur, donc demain, dans 1 an, dans 5 ans, et quelles mesures préventives les entreprises, les industries doivent-elles prendre aujourd'hui pour se préparer pour demain, selon vous? Qui veut commencer? Chuck?
I could start. I think they're evolving very rapidly, and that's because our computational abilities are evolving very rapidly, and it parallels that. And what is being done, and you mentioned the human factor, there are some of these hackers, which are quite sophisticated, are looking at behavioral aspects. Now they're integrating that into their algorithms, so they find easier ways to get through. They know behaviors, they do social engineering. So I think a lot of the issues with privacy are going to evaporate. Because we'll have no privacy. And so that's one of the big fears. And the other thing that we can't neglect, and I know Canada's been very involved with this too, is that quantum technology is starting to come online too. And it may not be in the full capacity, but it's already in algorithms, it's already in photonics. So when this is integrated with artificial intelligence, it's going to exponentially change the equation of their ability to do things rapidly and to scoop up as much data as possible. And then you have to look at the landscape, and the landscape is these state-sponsored and actually state actors that are doing this. So I think the only really solution is that we have to really break down the boundaries between the industry and government. It needs to be a full partnership now because industry can't take it alone. Some industries are more equipped to do things, particularly the financial industry and others, but for the most of commerce, they can't deal with the threat of a large state attacking them. They don't have the tools, the equipment, or knowledge. So I think you're going to see a much more global cooperation, and particularly state government cooperation for each nation.
Wow. Manuel?
What I fear is that is automation. That attacks will be highly automatized, and it's just speeding up in a way that we haven't seen before. And when we're looking at coming back to critical infrastructure like water supply, it's everywhere. It's in the perimetry, if you like to. It's out there. There's thousands, or at least in small instances, in small installation, there are hundreds of little contact points and data points where you can actually access. It's kind of spread all over the country. And there are vulnerabilities within it. They're all access points. So if you automatize everything, you kind of can run it from country to country, from Germany, France, Spain, Canada, wherever you want to. And it's so easy to do. It used to take some time to really do all the scanning and find out where to attack. And now it's getting more and more easy. And that's something I really do fear, because I do not believe that we can catch up that fast, but that's another discussion.
Christophe?
I'm sorry.
Je dirais que on dit toujours que le problème est souvent entre la chaise et l'ordinateur. Bon. Je dirais que le seul moyen d'y arriver, il y a plusieurs choses. Un, c'est de faire de la pédagogie, beaucoup de pédagogie. Et pas de la pédagogie uniquement aux équipes techniques, mais de la pédagogie ne serait-ce que déjà aux dirigeants. Un dirigeant qui n'est pas sensibilisé sur les dangers de la cybersécurité, c'est un problème. Ensuite, c'est aussi de sensibiliser les employés. N'importe qui dans l'entreprise est un danger potentiel pour les données de l'entreprise et pour l'entreprise elle-même. Parce qu'une secrétaire qui reçoit un mail avec une pièce jointe en PDF et qui va se dire « Ah bah tiens, je vais pouvoir regarder sans danger », et il va cliquer, et va mettre en place, va déployer un ransomware qui va bloquer l'entreprise et ça va coûter des fortunes. Ça arrive partout. Donc il y a beaucoup de pédagogie, beaucoup d'enseignements à faire et de la collaboration. Je pense qu'effectivement, beaucoup de gouvernements sont en train de déployer des stratégies pour éduquer les entreprises, mettre en place des contenus, apporter des vraies réponses, mais ça va encore très lentement, trop lentement, beaucoup trop lentement. Mais c'est la bonne stratégie à adopter. Il y a comme par exemple ici au Québec, il y a CyberEcho qui fait un gros travail de pédagogie, l'ANSSI en France, l'Allemagne a déployé aussi ce genre de choses. Les États-Unis font aussi pas mal de sensibilisation auprès de leurs entreprises et ils vont beaucoup plus vite que nous aussi dans ce domaine. Mais je pense qu'on ne va pas assez vite. On ne va pas assez vite du tout. Et vraiment, le problème, c'est toujours l'opérateur. C'est toujours celui qui est derrière cet écran.
Christophe, avec votre réponse, vous amenez la prochaine question, c'est-à-dire que comment on fait, sachant que l'humain, l'employé dans une entreprise est probablement le maillon faible de tout le système de sécurité de l'entreprise, comment on fait pour préparer une entreprise à demain? Alors,
je vais vous donner un cas concret. Alors, bon, c'est plus facile de le faire quand on connaît. Nous, on a mis en place des formations de sensibilisation pour les salariés. On met en place des fiches d'utilisation. Donc, dans des cas précis, on réinvente rien. On se base sur les fiches de l'ANSSI. Ou pour le coup, en mobilité, quelles sont les bonnes pratiques à adopter. Donc, non, je ne vais pas me connecter, je ne vais pas recharger mon téléphone dans un aéroport bêtement en me mettant sur l'USB ou n'importe où dans un hôtel. Je vais utiliser des USB bloqueurs. Je vais faire attention d'utiliser, par exemple, de bien verrouiller mes données personnelles, de ne pas me balader avec un ordinateur avec toutes les données de l'entreprise, mais d'avoir une approche de sauvegarder mes données sur le serveur global. Enfin voilà, il y a tout un ensemble de stratégies qu'on est capable de mettre en place, donc c'est comme ça qu'on va préparer l'avenir. Et puis ensuite, c'est aussi d'arriver avec des outils. Il existe aujourd'hui des outils très simples et une manière de gérer des flottes de téléphones, de gérer des flottes d'ordinateurs, d'utiliser par exemple d'utiliser des systèmes directement physiques sur les disques durs qui permettent de verrouiller, donc avoir un double verrouillage au démarrage de son ordinateur. Donc il y a plein de solutions. Et je pense que ça passe déjà par ça. Ensuite, d'un point de vue industriel, c'est de monter en compétences. Monter en compétences et d'organiser des niveaux de SOC. Donc en fonction de l'industriel, d'être capable de l'accompagner justement pour monter en compétences là-dessus, d'arriver avec des stratégies qui vont évoluer, mettre en place des bastions SSH, aussi d'avoir une approche avec différents types de réseaux, de segmenter son réseau proprement et d'avoir des VLAN qui sont plutôt bien organisés et où tout le monde ne va pas aller. Mettre aussi des droits différents. C'est-à-dire que moi en tant que salarié, je n'ai pas forcément besoin d'avoir accès à toutes les données de l'entreprise. Donc il y a beaucoup de choses à mettre en place comme ça qui vont faire la différence. Et à l'avenir, et puis après il y a aussi la partie infrastructure.
Et là, c'est vraiment le facteur humain qui m'intéresse. Manuel?
Yeah, that's a good one. From my perspective, I totally agree regarding security awareness and regarding training. I think that's really an important thing, but but we need to change the way we train. And I truly believe when it comes to artificial intelligence, people need to work with it. Everybody in the company should work with ChatGPT and whatever's coming up. You know, they should kind of know what's happening. Otherwise, it's so abstract. People can't imagine what actually could happen, how an attacker would actually work. But if they're working with it on their for themselves, it's not only making things more productive for the company, but it also will enlarge the perspective and the fantasy of an employee what actually could go wrong. And the trainings need to be up to date, because what I'm seeing and critical infrastructure companies, there is a training program that is bought maybe 3 or 5 years ago, and that's still running. There's no word of artificial intelligence and sophisticated attacks with it. So people don't get trained accordingly to the new threats. I think that's a major point. But further, when it comes to management education, management sensitivity for this, what I often see is that in maybe small towns, energy supply, water supply, that this is kind of 30 years backwards. So you have people in management positions who don't really work with, they're not really open to new technology. They kind of, some of them I would say they hope that this too shall pass. And they're not really into it. So I think we need to work strong on management education. And that being said, security awareness for the whole team, for the whole company, management education. Further, I would say we need technical solutions. And what you just said regarding need to know principle. So small micro segmenting and things like that. I think this is really important. But this is something which could have been done so long ago, because we know that we need to that the need to know principle is a very good one, but it kind of makes a company really slow, because when you always need to ask the admin, admin, I would need to have access, or my colleague, my employee, my coworker needs access to this and this data, then a kind of bureaucratic process starts. This is why many people kind of bypass it in some way. And this is why I think cloud is important, because it can be easier with the cloud, right? Yeah.
Chuck?
Yeah, I agree with everything that Christophe and Manuel just said. A couple other suggestions. One is gamification is a trend that seems to work, gets people more involved, easy to do, and it's not costly for companies to do it. Second thing is they probably should have someone on their board who has an expertise in cybersecurity. Most companies don't have one, and small business and medium business should all have at least someone that knows the landscape and the threats that can can mitigate threats and help educate employees. And the other thing is the biggest challenge I see now is remote work. A lot of the umbrella that you had with your IT administrators is now expanded, and people are commingling their personal and business stuff on their same computers. They don't have secure routers. They go to coffee shops and use the Wi-Fi. So I think you have to have a new equation nowadays to help protect your company. And so I think a lot of this has to be adapted. And then if you take the artificial intelligence aspect, that you multiply the risk. So I think we really need to reevaluate. Every company needs to reevaluate their posture and security posture now.
But I'm listening at your answer. I'm thinking that why do I keep thinking that in 20 years we could be over here and hearing the same things, saying that, well, we should be doing this. And you said it, Manuel, it should have been done a long time ago. But it's like we're not able to understand that we have to, well, first of all, to keep up with technology, but to work in, I mean, Chuck, you are teaching at Georgetown University. Do you feel that your students right now are ready for in 10 years or in 15 years when they'll be maybe 20 years when they'll be managing the big corp?
I do. I'm actually encouraged by some of they're graduate students, they're not undergrads, so they have, a lot of them are in their early careers and they understand the implications from the work they're doing now. But they're open-minded, and what I think a lot of them lack, a lot of them have technical skills, but they lack the soft skills. And I think with cybersecurity, you have to have both. And it's not just being able to code and do things. It's not an IT role. And I think they're adaptive, and if they have to teach them to be critical thinkers more than anything else. And I'm encouraged, and I think this is at a lot of universities around the world. People are looking at this area, particularly in science and technology areas, where you're getting people who are looking at really the end goal in the future. And you have to always be looking towards the future. And I'm worried too, because I think a lot of what was just said is that we tend to be complacent in almost everything we do now as humans. And we don't expect the bad stuff to happen, but it keeps happening. And until we get a new mindset, it's going to keep happening.
It's like we say, it's not if, it's when. It's always like that about cybersecurity. I want to go elsewhere. When we're talking about the data protection, in my mind, there's always the ethic aspect of it that's being brought with that question. How do you see that we should manage the future of data protection, having the ethics and the responsibility in mind? I don't know who's want to start on it. Manuel?
Well, yeah. I'm an advocate of technical solutions for threats. I do believe in human. I do believe in the power of security awareness, absolutely, but I'm a big supporter of technical solutions. And there are lots of them. So you can use artificial intelligence to kind of protect your systems. You can do that. But it raises lots of ethical questions, of course. So when it comes to, for instance, behavioral authentication, so keyboard, movement of the mouse, and everything, that's an effective tool, no question, because you kind of it's a continuous authentication. The technology is always checking whether you are the person you say you are or you're not. And if there's one thing, it's one time that you behave in a different way, then security measures will just fall. They will kind of will stop you, will prevent bad things from happening. So this is a great technology. But when you think that through, it leads to kind of 100% surveillance of employees, and that's an ethical question, I would say.
Chuck?
Yeah, I think Europe is actually ahead of the United States in this area in privacy, and with GDPR and other factors. Again, it really does come down to privacy when you're talking about ethics, because everything you do is wide open. All your personal data is available, your behaviors data available. So it's a question of what you need to do to protect it. And the ethics of AI is a whole other topic. Is it going to get too powerful where it gains more control over us or the people using it use it to gain more control of us. And I think discussions now being made in government circles. The United States is also adapting artificial ethics policies and use guidelines. But right now it's such a new area that we really don't know the implications. We don't know what's going to happen a decade from now. We don't know what's going to happen 50 years from now. So no one thought we'd be in this position right now with the technology we have, except for maybe if you watch the old movie 2001, which we're actually then behind where I thought we'd be. But right now it's happening so fast that we really have to look at the ethical parameters and build around them. But another thing to consider is that the adversaries don't use ethics. So you have to look at, criminal aspects in a different way.
Christophe?
Je dirais le contrôle, la cybersécurité c'est le contrôle, mais le contrôle n'exclut pas la transparence, effectivement, la protection des données et surtout d'être transparent vis-à-vis des utilisateurs et le consentement éclairé. Parce que mine de rien, on contrôle, alors c'est mon côté européen qui va parler, mais on fait du contrôle sur des données personnelles et il est important qu'effectivement les utilisateurs soient conscients de ça et qu'ils soient d'accord avec ça malgré tout. Surtout dans notre domaine, on fait aussi des solutions de cloud et on est obligé d'être assez clair avec les utilisateurs. On va très loin dans le contrôle. En cybersécurité, on peut descendre très très bas dans les couches de surveillance. Donc voilà, je pense que ça, c'est les deux enjeux éthiques dont on doit tenir compte à l'avenir et même maintenant.
En terminant, j'ai une question basée sur ce que j'ai entendu aujourd'hui. On a beaucoup parlé de IoT, on a beaucoup parlé de OT, et je me demande qu'est-ce que les manufacturiers, qu'est-ce que les producteurs de produits doivent faire pour améliorer notre futur? Parce qu'au rythme où ça va aujourd'hui, avec les trous de fromage suisse qui existent dans les systèmes qui sont mis sur les marchés, ça va être la catastrophe dans quelques années. Alors, qu'est-ce que les manufacturiers doivent faire pour essayer d'enrayer ce problème-là? Christophe?
C'est simple. Si on parle d'objets connectés, la problématique, c'est les standards. Il n'y a aucun standard. Donc, il y a différentes technologies, différents protocoles, et certains protocoles ont des failles. Donc, c'est un vrai problème.
Vous pensez à Matters?
Pardon?
Vous pensez à Matters?
Je pense à beaucoup de protocoles, mais quand vous faites de la mesure, alors effectivement, nous, par exemple, sur la partie data center, on fait beaucoup de contrôles, ne serait-ce que sur la partie hydrométrie, sur le CO2, sur les températures et autres. Ces informations-là, en fait, elles peuvent poser des problèmes. On a été obligé de développer en interne une solution chez Exaion, une solution qui nous permet en fait tout simplement d'envoyer des informations d'objets connectés d'un site sensible sous la forme d'une diode réseau, mais qui fonctionne sur le principe d'une fibre optique dans un seul sens. Donc, je peux envoyer l'information vers l'extérieur, mais je ne peux pas rentrer par ce biais-là. Donc, on a développé ce système-là, qui est déjà fonctionnel dans certaines centrales thermiques en Europe, chez EDF. Et pour le coup, on s'est rendu compte que n'importe quel objet connecté était une source de problème. Donc voilà. Mais la réalité, c'est que je pense que les constructeurs ne s'en rendent pas compte. Et je pense que globalement, n'importe quel utilisateur, quand vous avez un objet connecté chez vous, alors c'est super sympa d'avoir une prise connectée, d'avoir son enceinte connectée, d'avoir ses lumières connectées. Mais en réalité, c'est une faille. C'est une faille dans votre système personnel. Parce que votre box ne va pas vous protéger de ça. Si quelqu'un veut rentrer dans votre système, si quelqu'un veut prendre le contrôle de vos solutions, il peut le faire assez facilement. Donc voilà. Donc il y a un gros travail à faire aussi au niveau des constructeurs. Après, c'est comme tout, ça coûte de l'argent. C'est beaucoup de travail, de R&D et tout. Puis il faut que tout le monde se mette d'accord. Et là, on rentre dans un jeu qui est très, très compliqué.
Merci. Manuel?
Yeah, I think it's the standard password, right? It's kind of the when the producer sends out his product, it comes with typical credentials, login credentials, and they never get changed. That's the problem. That's one of the problems, right? And you have it for consumer products, because many of the routers and so on, they come with a username and a password, and many people just don't change it. So this is kind of something that the procedure of how you set up your product at home, you should be forced to do something. Yeah, but this is something, at home you want to decide whether or not you want to change a password. But that's just human behavior. It's kind of funny that people just don't learn and don't want to change that. But actually, it's not only in private households. We do have this in industry as well. So when it comes to home automation, the same home automation systems you have at home, you can have in a mid-sized company. And when it comes to physical security, I found this interesting. Every camera, every access control system is available on the network, and even if they kind of really make this secure, there are still possibilities to command and control the systems. Actually, we from BSKI, from our association, we presented a hack at DEF CON this year, which was about a command and control system which commands and controls all the physical security systems that are in a building, and critical infrastructure, of course, from my part. And even if the security systems itself, so access controls, door opener, and so on, video surveillance, even if they have been all secure in some way, and the producers have made a good job, they were all connected to a piece of software that commands and controls everything. And the software itself was built by a mid-sized software. It was a kind of a niche product. It's called PSIM, Physical Security Information Management. That's what it's called. And it was built by a mid-sized German company in Frankfurt, having 120 employees. And it's kind of a very, very old system with lots of... it has some history, I would say. Lots of physical security products need to run into that, need to work with that. And so there, from an attacker's perspective, there's so many doors open that you can actually use. And yeah, so it's not only the product, it's the management of the product as well we need to look at.
Chuck?
The Internet of Things is a huge problem with 50 billion devices and growing. Every person will have 5 devices connected to them by 2025. I don't know if we could stop that, but there are policies now being implemented by the Department of Homeland Security in the U.S. 2 of them have been put in the last 4 years. One is zero trust. Assume that your network is already corrupted and every device and person connected should have some sort of identity and be verified. That's one way to help stop things. The second part is now what we're talking about with operational technology is security by design. It's not new, but when you think about it, most of the infrastructure in the world is decades old. In the United States alone, the grid is built 30 to 50 years ago, some of the components. So if you're looking at that, now's the time to rebuild, and there's no reason that you should not build anything that's with operational technology, with security in design up front, and that can be done. You can harden it, and you can make sure that all those protocols are followed, that it cannot be breached. So I think there's some hope in that as we replace things. But right now, we're all very vulnerable, and IoT is just really a nightmare.
Well, on that not so positive note, we'll have to end the panel. Chuck, Manuel, Christophe, thank you for your time. Merci beaucoup. And I hope you enjoyed the conversation.